Hey Zaka family! Zaka is launching an exclusive membership platform to provide you with career development workshops, coaching, community, and so much more. Go to ZakaConnect.com and sign up to receive information on how to access early registration and perks.
Hello, everybody. This is Greg Maurice, founder of Zaka. Today is going to be very, very different because I'll be interviewing Paul Herman, who's our host for Zaka Presents My Journey. We are creating this vulnerable and positive platform where you can get inspired and motivated from different leaders from our community. Today, our guest is our host, Paul Herman. What's up, P? I know you did not know anything about this, but like I said, I wanted to flip the script on you. We got so many comments, questions about you. So I figure I can ask you some of these questions before we start. Can you tell us about yourself and where you grew up and where is mom and pops from?
Well, before I go in and kind of express that, first off, I mean, you definitely flipped the script on me. I was ready to get to the interview, and then you just said, "Look, now the questions is on you now." It's an honor to be one of the guests on the show, and I'm hoping I could definitely provide value to the Zaka community. But yeah, I'm originally from the South Bronx, born and raised. My mother is from Portland, Jamaica, and my father is from St. Lucia, Castro, St. Lucia. They were born out there in the Caribbean. Obviously, if to anyone listening, the Caribbean is a beautiful place to be, has a lot of Caribbean islands. Jamaica and St. Lucia are very well known in the Caribbean. But then they migrated here to the States, in which they started to, pursue an educational background. Didn't finish college, got to like the high school level. And then at that point in time, they got married, had kids. I do have an older sister, lives in Canada right now, a nephew and niece. Got an older brother, lives out in I was gonna say Florida, but lives out in LA, film director. And then obviously myself and my little brother Brian. So we are a big family that's holding it down. But yeah, born and raised in the South Bronx.
Okay, okay. Well, can you tell us about your childhood? You went to a private school, and first thing that I noticed when I first met you back 2001 is that you are always happy and smiling. What is that about, and where did that come from?
I think it came from the Caribbean culture. I think that was one of the first places I kind of like found myself, my character, the individual within me, my what makes me unique. One thing I do tell people whenever I'm doing like my motivational seminars, people always say like, "What makes you stand out?" I think it is my smile. I just try to have. I think that's one of the first things you could give to someone. Before a firm handshake, before you look them in their eye, like that intimate look, a smile from across the room. So that was something I was kind of like brought up on. The Caribbean culture is very open, very loving. They definitely feel like it takes a village to raise a child. I was definitely brought up not only by my parents but also by my cousins as well, my aunts, my grandparents. Like everyone had a hand on like the growth of myself. So I think my childhood growing up, you know, we grew up in the South Bronx, and back in the 80s, it was definitely very rough, from the drugs, the violence, the teen pregnancy, things that a lot of the inner city youth do face every single day within their lives. It was something that we had to kind of find a way to navigate through that. And I think that my parents, they did a wonderful job in kind of like pushing for like the educational component of our lives, but also for church as well, like the community within the church. I think that it was something else that we could kind of fall back on. But music was definitely a big thing in the family. Obviously, the Caribbean culture, when you got Carnival and you got all these other uh, Caribbean artists, that just give you this nothing but life when they're on that stage. I think that music played inside of the house, and it made me smile every day. I woke up to music, and then from there, my family members greeted me the same way. We try our best to kind of like reciprocate that love and appreciation towards each other, and that was something that I gravitated to at a young age.
Yeah, it's a great thing that you just brought up music, right? Because everybody who knows you can testify about, your energy, personality, and of course, like you're always dancing. Talk to me about the passion for dancing. Like, can you talk to us about that?
I think the passion for dance for me, it really comes from, I want to say it definitely has manifested over the many years. My parents weren't able to afford back in the days to put myself and Brian, also my younger brother, took an interest into dance as well. But myself, my mother always talks about the first time she saw me dancing officially, right? It was at 2 years old. I was in my crib and she was trying to change me or something like that. She was with my aunt, my grand aunt, who passed away. Another one from the Caribbean, Jamaica as well. I was in the crib, and as I was in the crib and I was getting, she was laying me down. She literally, Michael Jackson's "Beat It" came on, she said, and I got up. And literally, when the music started playing, I started dancing. She tried to hold me back down, but my aunt said, let him do his thing, right? So the music plays, the song plays. It was probably a video or something like that, or maybe even on the radio. She said once the song was over, I laid back down. And that's when my aunt said at that point, she was like, he's going to be a dancer. You know what? Caribbean culture, parents are like, nah, that can't happen. He's got to be a lawyer. He's got to be a doctor. They were very stuck on that. I did have a way with my words when I spoke to people. I was very good at communicating at a young age. So that's when my mother was like, you're going to be a lawyer because you like to talk a lot. But it manifested into other talents and other gifts as I got older.
Like, for sure. You received like your degree in business administration. What job did you have after you graduated, and when did you realize that corporate America was not for you, and why?
When I was back in high school, I got a lot of great opportunities to kind of get involved in corporate America. Growing up in the inner city, I was always trying to find a way to kind of learn a lot about how to be successful. And I thought success was on Wall Street. That was something that, a lot of minorities, when we were growing up, it was like the way we thought about success was with a suit, success was with a briefcase. It was being in a doctor's office. Like, it was like kind of like instilled in us that if we want to be successful, we have to be in Midtown Manhattan. So I've always wanted at a young age to be a part of that environment. And I had some great opportunities when I was younger. I got into HBO sports, HBO travel because of my academics at the time. I graduated with a class of 88 seniors. So I really pushed to kind of like really be seen within that community. Once I got to college, I really realized that like business was something that I want to kind of like pursue. I graduated from Sacred Heart with that business degree, and I went right into corporate America. And I was working sales and marketing for a company called Direct Buy. It's the largest buying company in the country. It was an amazing company to work for. But one of the things that I didn't enjoy about my position was sales. Now, as we all know, the world revolves around sales. You got to be able to speak up and sell products, sell services in order to continue business. But the products I was selling at the time, depending on the clientele, I felt kind of bad selling to people that couldn't afford the service. I always will relate back, remember those days, and remember like the people that were coming in. Some of them were minorities. Some of them were, immigrants as well too, trying to be a part of this club. And the membership fees were pretty high. And I always said to myself, I was like, that could be someone's mother, like a friend of mine. That could be my aunt, and I had a soft spot for that. And I think that's what my supervisors didn't really appreciate about me. They, not saying they didn't allow it to happen. They just knew that, like, Paul, like, you could have closed the sale. They love you. And that's one of the things that about sales. If you make a friend, you're more likely to get that sale. And I would make a friend because of my personality and the way I connected with people, but I couldn't sell to those individuals that I knew it was going to be of disservice to them in the near future. They were pulling from like their kids' tuition. They were pulling from, that money that their family members are sending back home to them, you know. So I felt kind of bad.
Mhm.
And at that point in time, I told my supervisors, I was like, look, honestly, I can't do this anymore. And supervisors like, what else are you trying to do? And I was like, I'm trying to dance, you know, or try to be a professor, a teacher or something. And, you know, I never forget when he told me, he said, you know, Paul, to be honest with you, I wanted to be a musician. It never worked out for me. You're one in a million. And it most likely would not work. You have a really good job right here. You're making good income. I was rookie of the year. I was making $70K at the age of 21 with rent of like $400. Like I was really making some serious moves out of college, but I didn't feel like I didn't find me behind that desk. And I felt like I wasn't doing any service or any justice to this community and to this world that we live in by just sitting at a desk, not giving my personality or sharing what God has given to me as a gift, you know, and I felt like it was time for me to go. I did leave, and I kind of pursued the dancing thing a little bit, but I was nervous. Just like anybody else, you leave corporate America, you're leaving a job, we're making $70K. Your parents are looking at you like you're crazy. Like, come on, like you just graduated. The job force wasn't doing too well. A minority male growing up, finally had an opportunity to really like be successful. And I was kind of like shunned by not taking that opportunity. They were like, you finally, not saying my parents, but people of my peers are like, yo, look, Paul, you're doing better than a lot of individuals. Like, why are you trying to go back to that mindset of like being in the Bronx, where it's like you had to struggle? Like making $70K, if I would have kept on, who knows, 6 figures would have never been a problem at that point. But I didn't find a passion in it. And I went back to corporate America for a quick second, but then I had an opportunity in 2007 to do the American Music Awards with Alicia Keys. And when I came back home, I was like, look, I think that was my sign. That was it. That was my calling. That was the day I realized when I came back to the office, like, this ain't for me.
Whew. Yeah. That I'm sure that took a lot of courage just to do that. So, can you talk about like the fear that you had? Because obviously, like you just broke it down. You had like a nice job working corporate America, making good amount of money, and for you to just quit without even like having like a backup plan, and for you to just wanted to dance, right? Like talk to me about that time, like the level of fear that you were like experiencing.
Honestly, man, I didn't know, I was speechless, you know, and I had to kind of break the news to my parents that like, this is what I was doing. Because, you know, after I graduated, my family members, you know, just like a lot of individuals coming from like that Caribbean, when someone graduates from a university, it's like a major accomplishment for the family because you're like one of the few. Right. So I graduated and like all my family members were like, oh my gosh, we have Paul, he graduated, like, and now he's going to use that degree to get a job. And I was one of those individuals that got a good job right out of college. It wasn't like I had to struggle to get it, to figure it out. I applied. Obviously, I was applying to several different companies, and I finally found the one. And when I got into the sales and I started to realize what commission was, and I could be a top sales director, I was driven by that. And I was driven by the money. I was driven by the lifestyle that everyone was living, you know, being able to financially take care of themselves. I remember one of the lessons that I got from that, working at that job, one Christmas, I was able to provide envelopes with gift cards to a spa. It was a nice spa in Midtown Manhattan. And all my family members, the women in the family, and they were the ones that kind of helped raise me at the time. They were like, where'd you get the money from? Like, how'd you even pull this off? Because you do the math for each one. It's like $100 on each one. It's like 10 women. You just drop like almost like $1,000. But to me, it was nothing, right? For what they did to help me. And I felt like that's what I wanted to do, but I was afraid that if I left that, I wouldn't be able to reciprocate that same thing again. Mm-hmm. And but it was something inside of me that was like, Paul, like if you trust yourself, you trust your gifts, you trust your crafts, there is going to be a lane for you. It's going to be tricky. It's going to be hard, but you're going to have to find it. I'm still finding it as I go through, because there's always some new things that I'm involved in, and realizing I have like a hidden talent that I never really pushed or pursued. But it was definitely some nights where I'm not gonna lie, the dollar menu was a big thing for me. There was numerous of times my car got repoed. There was numerous of times where I was late on rent, when my landlords had told me, like, look, if you miss another payment, I'm gonna have to evict you. There was a lot of, sad days, and I don't talk about these days to kind of like brag about the struggle. I'm just saying that, like, it's a real thing. Like, you went from anyone trying to pursue something within the arts. It's a very hard field, It's not as easy as, and it's sometimes not as lucrative as in corporate America.
No, that's tough, because I could imagine back then. So yeah, back then, your dancing career, how did that get started, and what are some of the artists that you toured with, and how did that help you, like, to become like a better, I guess, entrepreneur or business owner?
I think the big break for us was in 2007, that I had an opportunity to be a part of a music video with an artist by the name of Deluna. She had a song called Wine Up featuring Elephant Man. Had some very dear friends and family members that were like really encouraging me to put a video out on YouTube. It was, at the time, YouTube had a lot of contests. You put up a video, and the artist or the team would look at you and say, "Oh yeah, we want you to come down." Sad to say, I didn't make it as a principal dancer. For the people who don't know what principal dancers are, those are like the main ones that are featured in the video. We were more of a featured dancer. When I say we, my brother and I were featured dancers. So we didn't get an opportunity to dance with Deluna, but we were able to be in the video. I was sad about that, because I thought that, like, I deserved that spot, but little did I know I wasn't ready for that opportunity. But as time progressed, at the day of the video shoot, we were able to meet a good friend, mentor, someone that I trust in the game deeply, Tanisha Scott, who has choreographed and worked with several different artists from across the world. She's definitely earned her stripes, as not even as a teacher, but also as an educator. She saw us that day and she said, like, guys, there's something about you that I see, and I feel like if you really like want to be a part of this industry, I could help you do it. She had that conversation with us, and I was very like shocked that she even stopped and did that. We performed that day at the video shoot, and I never forget, she stopped the music and she said, guys, if you don't dance like this, don't come to the front. And I was like shocked that she had kind of called us out. After that, we developed a really strong relationship, and I developed a relationship with Kat, her management team. And from there, the rest was history. Tanisha provided us with the Alicia Keys, and, we started working with, we work with people like Sarani, Lil Wayne. We opened up for Chris Brown and his Up and Close and Personal tour, opened up for Rihanna. We performed for the Olympic Russian team, Russia, Italy, Spain, Africa, Martinique, the Caribbean islands. We've been all over the world, have like at least 2 to 3 passports, because they've been stamped up so much. And I say this to say, I'm still that kid from the Bronx. I'm still that, Jamaican / St. Lucian, the kid with the smile, the minority, the one that saw his parents struggling to make ends meet, working endless hours. I'm still that guy. It's just that I was blessed to get that opportunity. And once I got that opportunity, I kind of ran with it.
Mm-hmm. So we all heard like crazy stories about the music industry and entertainment industry. Like, what are some of those challenges that you face, like doing that whole, I guess, time of your career, like especially touring and also like dancing for artists?
There's been a lot of things that I've seen in my time, especially being in the industry. It is definitely a dangerous place if you do not watch yourself. A lot of times people are gonna try to influence you to be somebody that you're really not. You have to have a really strong backbone, and you really need to know your limits and also set a standard for yourself. Luckily, we had some, good mentors that, kind of help us along the way to kind of encourage us, like, to look out for these things. But some of the things you're going to have to find out on your own. You know, some things that, you know, that has affected me was, you know, being in the industry, you know, some places you're just not welcome, bottom line. You know, the audience might not be receptive to the music that the artist is playing, or even receptive to the dance moves. You could tell that people were upset, or I've been at times I had people fling stuff onto the stage, especially in our earlier stages of when we were working with Kat. Dear friend, love us so much for providing us with the opportunity. When we were on stage in the first couple of shows, like we're going to like local bars and stuff where people just could care less who the person is on that microphone. You got people throwing glass bottles, you got people disrespectful, you know, throwing water on the ground just to make you slip, to see you fall or hurt yourself. But then as it got older, you know, you deal with people, bigger addictions and bigger problems. You're dealing with people with drugs. You're dealing with people who got out, like the straight alcohol. People just, because you know the industry is all about partying. It's about entertainment. So sometimes people feel like entertainment has to deal with alcohol, sex, and drugs. And I was around those things on a regular basis. And luckily, I never really like fell victim to it. I never really thought that that was a way in to get higher up the scale. I just let my work ethic speak for itself.
Yeah, you're right about that. Obviously, now you're an entrepreneur. You have your own business. What advice would you give, like, to a young inner city child who looks up to you, and if he wants to, or he or she wants to have like their own business now? So, what kind of advice would you give them?
Well, first advice I would say, go for it, right? That's the first thing I'm going to say. You know, I think that everyone should do something for themselves. Like, and even if I don't want to even say fail. It's not even about failing. It's about, you know, trying something that, you know, you've always wanted to do, but you never had the courage to do it, or you never had someone to inspire you to do it. I think that that's the first thing I would recommend. Just do it. Write things down is a big thing. I know we all hear that from a lot of motivational speakers and individuals, coaches in our lives. Writing things down and being a little bit more in tune with your goals, you know, not just being like, oh yeah, I want to open my own business one day, but not really writing it down to kind of figure out how to get it. Develop a strong team, but the first team is yourself. You got to be the entrepreneur. You got to be the artist. You got to be the educator. You got to be the marketing person. You need to have sales meetings with yourself. And that's something that I did in my earlier stages of developing my company. I would wake up in the morning like I was going to corporate America. I would get dressed in my room like I was going to work, and just literally walk into the living room and sit down and be like, I'm got to be at my desk at 9 o'clock. The train was me walking from a bedroom to the living room, right? And I would have my own lunch breaks. I would leave my house and I would have the mentality that I was still in like corporate America, but in my own way. You got to set expectations for yourselves. You know, you can't be like, oh yeah, nah, it'll get done. No, you can't procrastinate, especially when you're your own boss. And I think the last thing I would probably recommend is just to have fun during the process. It's going to be stressful. You know, you could be doing something totally different and probably making a lot more money and being a lot more successful, but is it going to bring that true joy and fulfillment into your life? I'm very big on happiness. And I always tell people, like, play full out when it comes to your happiness. If you plan your vacations weeks in advance just to make sure you have the perfect vacation, then start planning to be successful every single day. So that when you do get to that point in time where you could give back, because you're not an artist unless you give back, you'll be able to give it at its full capacity.
That's deep right there. So obviously, like, I know I mentioned that before. Like, obviously, like, if you know Paul, you met Paul before. Like, it's, you know, first thing that, you know, that captivates you about him is basically his energy, like his smile, and obviously, like, you're very organic and authentic. How to basically like connect with others, right? So obviously now you're a motivational speaker, like you're a host, like also like a mentor. What was like the breakthrough for you, and when did you realize that's what you wanted to do?
It was during the pandemic. I never forget, in 2020. As an artist, that was probably like one of the worst times for anyone. Obviously, it was a bad time for everyone, right? Everyone was going through it. A lot of people were losing their lives due to this pandemic and COVID-19. But I saw a lot of artists like mentally like jump off the cliff because there was no more plays, there was no more shows, there was no more auditions, there was no more classes. People were doing stuff on Zoom. If you didn't have a computer, then you had to go buy one, but you couldn't go to the store to get it. You had to order on Amazon, but then Amazon, instead of being Amazon Prime and coming 3 days, it was coming in 2 weeks. So you were losing out on it. It was just like crazy. And I always tell this story of like when I woke up every day to sit at my desk at 9 o'clock in the morning, the people I would call were a lot of my closest friends that were in the arts, right? And a lot of them were unmotivated. A lot of them were like down, and some, you could just tell it was early stages of depression for a lot of them because they just didn't know what to do and things weren't working for them. Unemployment, you name it. It was just a constant battle. So what I had to do, I was starting to go down that cliff too. And I was a little bit worried in regards to my own mental health because I knew that I had a lot on my back to kind of make at the end of the tunnel when I got out what I was going to do. So I started connecting with a lot of my friends when I went on tour. Shout out to the tour and Cat Deluna. A lot of my friends that I met on tour, I started to call them in the morning at 9 o'clock. Now keep in mind, if I'm calling Europe, they're mid-afternoon. So the way the energy is for that individual, mind you, they're going through the same thing. But in the afternoon, you're not speaking to someone who's just rolling out of bed. Because remember, at the pandemic, there was no work. So people could sleep in all they wanted. So when I called people in Europe at 1 o'clock or told them to call me, and it was like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, they were in midday. So their energy vibrated over the phone with me. Their energy, even though it was a bad moment, I still felt it. Hey, Paul, yo, good morning, man. Yo, what you doing today? Yeah, I might go for a run. Versus calling the person up in the morning and being like, yeah, honestly, I don't even know what I'm going to do today. So I stopped myself from hearing that and put it towards that. And during that pandemic, it was around my birthday. I was like, what am I going to do for me? What am I going to leave this community with? Hey, who knows? COVID could hit me. It could hit my family members. It could do anything. I said I want to develop something. And that's when I really got down into the heart of it all. And I said, who is Paul Herman? What does he do? And over the many years, what has he evolved to? And that's when I came up with the whole press play movement. And press play is just a movement where I just tell people, like, you got to have a press play mentality. A lot of people, they want to fast forward in life, skip steps. Some people want to rewind and kind of talk about the past and like, yo, I remember when I used to do this, but never really like make any change to like kind of live it now currently. Some people stop what they're doing, because if something happened, or they stopped it because they just felt like it wasn't going to be successful. They doubted themselves. Some people are really on pause because something happened, a new job, they transferred positions. They probably got a new family addition, right? But what I ask people to do and what I've been doing is just constantly press and play. I put my headphones on and I just listen to what the universe tells me to do every single day. And I just use that as a way to kind of move through life.
Yeah, I'm glad that breakthrough happened because that's who you are. So obviously, like you've been that person, like your whole life. So for you to be able to be doing this as a career, like for a living, and something that you're passionate about, so kudos to you. So happy that you're doing that. So what keeps you going like in life?
I think what keeps me going is my family. I've always been very big on trying to, because that's what made me. It was those, Christmas dinners where I used to dance in front of a group of people. It was, that Thanksgiving dinner where like at dessert, they were like, hey, everyone, look at Paul. He's about to do a performance, So I'm very big on that. And, obviously one day I will have my own family of my own and I'll be able to kind of like live through that experience. I think another thing that keeps me motivated is when I connect with, my community and see all the beautiful things that surround me. Sometimes we just need to open our eyes and see what's around us because life is too short. And more importantly, there's a lot of beautiful things around us that we're just not even paying attention to. So when you came to me with even like the Zaka experience, and I've known you for several years, Greg, and you've always been a very influential person in my life. And I know we always challenge each other to kind of like just elevate in each way. And then, you know, during that time, you're like, hey, look, Paul, even during around that pandemic, you were like, look, I got this idea. Give me some time. You know, I'll let you know what it is. And, you know, you kind of manifested it, put it together, and then finally you presented it back to me. And it was like another moment to make me realize, like, hey, I just developed this and Greg just brought this to me. So it was like a seamless transition in regards to what I was envisioning to the opportunity that was provided to me. And this is, again, me putting on my headphones and listening and saying, look, Paul, develop, press play to that level, and those opportunities will come. So I think having opportunities like this, being able to kind of, you know, talk about my experience with the like communities like Zaka, being able to perform, being able to help other dancers or artists, you know, cultivate their ideas and dreams and thoughts, helping other businesses develop, doing motivational seminars, traveling, meeting new people, feeling new energy. That's what really keeps me like ticking. I'm honestly, I lose a lot of sleep, a lot of hours. I'm like, oh my gosh, but I look at people like Kevin Hart and I'm like, look at the work that he does. And he really impacts a lot of people with the work that he does. So if he could do it, you know, I feel like a lot of other people should step up, and I'm definitely stepping up to that plate.
Well, you definitely doing it, and I know, and I'm confident you'll get there. So I have like two more questions for you before like I terminate this interview. So, what do you think so far is your biggest accomplishment?
I think my biggest accomplishment, I mean, that's a hard one because is I don't really celebrate my victories. I know that sounds crazy, right? To some people, and a lot of my friends, if you're very close with me, they be like, "Paul, aren't you happy?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm content. I'm happy, but I know that what's really playing for me, this was just a stepping stone, right?" I think one of my biggest accomplishments is just realizing the true talent that I really had. You know, I had to go through corporate America. I had to go through some good relationships, bad relationships. I had to lose a couple of friends. I had to, you know, disappoint my parents, you know, at that time of being like, look, mom, dad, I know y'all came from the Caribbean. I know you're trying to raise me to be the doctor and lawyer, but I can't do that anymore. You know, I had to be broke. I had to live off the dollar menu in order to find me. And I think that finding yourself, I'm a firm believer you're born with two pieces of paper. One is your birth certificate, and the other is your purpose. You got to go through a lot of things in life, some things that you don't want to go through, some things that you don't want to endure. But once you find that envelope and you open it, you read it, you find out what your purpose is, then you can start applying it to your life. And once you do that, you'll start to have more alignment, and that will create more clarity in your life. And I think everything I do nowadays, it makes sense. Everything I touch, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go to the school. I'm going to do the motivation seminar, or I'm going to go. It's not like I have to think too hard because I'm aligned in my purpose. So I think finding me, finding my purpose, aligning myself, and just gaining more clarity to the artist that I truly am has been one of my biggest accomplishments.
I like that, B. Okay. Obviously, we are grateful and honored that you are the host for Zaka. So, what made you agree to do this? Why? And what is it about our mission that is aligned with you?
I think one of the reasons why, there's several reasons. One of the reasons why I definitely wanted to take on this challenge and this opportunity, this wonderful opportunity, was one, because I trusted you, Greg. That was one. Like, you've never been any individual that, you know, you have a lot of close friends and people like, oh, I'm gonna do this, but they never really like pull up. Everything you say you're gonna do, you do it. And you do it to the level of where you could, your best potential, right? I knew that when you came to me, the way you spoke about this was like, it was your son, it was a daughter, right? It wasn't like, hey, like, I got this idea, I want to open up a lemonade stand on the corner of the street and hopefully start making some money and I can invest in it. Nah, it wasn't like that. It was like, Paul, I want to change the world. And I'm a firm believer in taking those opportunities. If someone provides you with an opportunity to help change the world, you better take it, right? And even if it means inspiring just our local community today, I'm down for that, because that's important. That I was that kid. And I still am that kid, right? So I know that if I help someone helped me, I need to help in that way. So knowing that I trusted you and knowing that your vision aligned with a lot of the things that I am aligned with as well, promoting diversity. I remember when I started off, a big thing was the MCing gigs, right? I'm doing a lot of mitzvahs, and at the big, it's a big thing in the Jewish community. There's a time where the kids become of age, they do a bat mitzvah or a bar mitzvah, and I was the only black guy in the room, to be honest with you. And there was a lot of times I was like, look, I'm out. I can't do this. I'd rather just go back to hosting or MCing in the clubs or something like that. And the DJs used to be like, and they weren't people that looked like myself, right? They didn't share the same culture. We obviously loved music. That was a connection, but I didn't dress like them. I didn't talk like them. And I felt like I didn't fit in, and I know that, over the grace period of many years, we have had several conversations about not fitting in, not finding our tribe, not knowing how to express ourselves or even express ourselves, and not having people judge us on the way we express ourselves. Zaka is a platform that does a phenomenal job giving people like myself a platform to really speak about the goods, the bads. You're not sugarcoating anything for anybody. Like, oh yeah, everything's peaches and cream, guys. Just come to America and get a job and you'll be fine. No, I love the fact that people are real. I love the fact that people are organic. I like to have conversation. I've learned a lot, not just from the interviews, but from the community itself. And I know that Zaka has a lot of great things in store. So listeners, I'm letting y'all know Greg and his team are doing a phenomenal job behind closed doors to really make sure that they provide you with a very vulnerable and positive platform that you guys could utilize for today, tomorrow, and for the future. And because of that, I'm here forever.
Damn, boy. I said I was gonna change the world. That's a lot of pressure on me now.
You said it in a way that it didn't come across very small. That's what I'm trying to say. It didn't come across as like, yo, Paul, I just want to just make a website and put something up and hopefully people will purchase it. No, it was like, I really want people of minorities. I want people of color. I want brown and Asians and Spanish and all these types of individuals to be on a platform to kind of share their experiences so other people could grow. That doesn't mean only in Connecticut. It doesn't mean only in New York. That same, it's 2022. COVID has given us an opportunity to go online. So your platform is going to be able to touch someone in Uganda, Africa tomorrow. So that's a beautiful thing. And I love traveling. I know that Zaka is going to provide that opportunity one day. Hint, hint. So if I'm on a flight to Uganda to go do an interview, I'm down for the cause. And I know that, listeners, it's a beautiful thing, when you find people that share your passion or a passion like yours. My father always says, find people who are just as passionate as you in their own craft and make a connection. So I feel I've made several connections in those interviews that I've had with Zaka.
No, for sure, P. We are proud of everything that you are doing, and you're right. We are excited about this platform that we are building, and obviously, like the community component that we are developing on Zaka. I cannot wait until like when it's launched, and obviously, like for the community to be able to provide so many tools and also like educational workshops for a lot of our members and users, like to be able to implement that into their personal and professional lives. So we are excited about that and for you to be part of it. And also like, obviously you are the host, the voice and the face of everything that we're doing. So proud of you, grateful that you are taking this journey with us. So thanks again. And thank you for sharing your journey.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you again for just having me on the show. I mean, again, you surprised me with this one. Again, listeners, I'm telling you the truth. I really thought I was going to be. I said, yo, where's the questions? Greg was like, just get on, Paul. You can see the questions once you get on. And I'm like, okay, all right, we're going to freestyle it today. Okay, I'm with you. And then I heard recording in session. I was like, wait, hold up. That's recording in session. But I don't see nobody on. And then Greg expressed it. So thank you again for even just allowing me just to share my journey and my experience of just being here with the Zaka family. And I greatly appreciate you for just, seeing that in me when we went to school and, years later to be like, you know what, if there's any person in the world that I could call on, it's going to be Paul. So thank you for believing in me.
Nah, Paul, thank you. If you want to hear about more stories like Paul, check us out on ZakaConnect.com or follow our feed, Zaka, wherever you listen to your podcast.
Before the podcast.
Yo, what it do?
What it do?
You got everything ready? You got your mic, everything?
My mic is my mic. This is the computer.
Good. Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah, man.
Okay. So I know you did not. I know you did not know anything about this, but wanted to flip the script on you today. You know, we got so many comments and questions about you, so I figure I can ask you some of these questions before we start.
Start. My man, before we start, but what are we starting?
Like I said, I'm flipping the script because you be asking the questions of today. Like the audience always ask us, leaving us comments. They want to know about you. So I'm gonna be interviewing you. So that's what we're doing today.
Oh, okay. Oh, damn, boy. Jeez. Okay. Me and my little my Lele Ching smile on real quick. Okay. Okay, I'm ready.
Ready?
Yeah.